All right, good afternoon. I've got a few things to get through. We've got a coaching video, first one I've had for a while, and some interesting things to discuss. So we do have some milestones as we always do. I can see he's on the line. We've got a first men's Division 1 gamer in the field. So Alex Hauge, well done. Alex was with us initially, won our best first year, I reckon it was, and then went out to the sample for a while. And has come back this year and done everything right and deserves his opportunity. So got a glowing report from the weekend and yeah, deserves a chance this week in Div 1. So well done, Alex. We have a 50-year gamer, Jamie Thompson, also in the field. I just got Alex rejoining. I've got two Alex Haggies online. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, Alex, you're doing your first Div 1 this week. 50th game, Jamie Thompson in the field. 100th game, Mark Barnett in the field, and Daniel Harold in the goal. We've got a 300 gamer. So Dennis Sester is going to be doing his 300th on Friday night with his good mate Jason Mounts. And a big 700 games for Vic Petroselli. So well done, Vic, on reaching 700 games, a big milestone. So well done to you guys. All right, let's start with talking about running too far. A topic of discussion after the weekend. And this is not coming from a disgruntled Crow supporter. I just thought it would be a good chance to have a chat about the rule and how we want to apply it at our level. So obviously after the weekend, with Isaac Rankin getting pinged and had run 24 metres, which was astounding. I don't think anyone picked that other than Chris Domlin, who was umpiring the game. So obviously the umpire at AFL level got it right. My suspicion, I have no idea whether this is the case. I reckon it's probably been discussed at an AFL coaching, umpires coaching session. For those that remember the showdown, I reckon Isaac ran about 30 metres for the last goal that he kicked. And whether or not that one was discussed, it's just a guess, maybe. But it's obviously meant that at AFL level, they're going to be keeping a close eye on it. And if it means we have a slightly different interpretation at our level, so be it. Obviously, the rule is 15 metres, but the way I want us to think about it is we want to err on the side of the ball player. So if we see someone run, in our eyes, 15, give it another step or two before you ping them. And if they kick it within that step or two, let it go. I think if we all start thinking like the AFL umpires are obviously going to think in the next period of time, I've got no doubt we're going to have our umpires penalise someone that's run 13 or 14 metres. And I just don't think it's what our game wants. So, yeah, just go back to the philosophy of err on the side of the ball player. And by all means, pay the decision if it's there. But, again, think, he's run a long way. Let him take he or she take another one or two steps. And if they haven't kicked it by then, by all means, penalise. I think Isaac's such a quick runner. Chris actually did well to pick up the fact he'd run that far. And yeah, I don't think anyone else really thought that he'd run that far. So yeah, I just foresee if we all take a mindset of we need to pay it wherever we think we're going to get very technical and we're going to get it wrong. And I'd rather us err on the side of the ball players. Any questions or comments or anything about that anyone wants to bring up?
Hey, Colin, it's Alison.
So we'll go Alison and then we'll go Frank. Yeah, go Ali.
Oh, hey, sorry, I was a bit late to the call, but I caught the end of you talking about the Isaac Rankine incident, and I think your takeaway from that is really good in terms of erring on the side of the ball play. So thank you for that. I also wanted to ask. It's not related to Isaac, but it's related to yesterday's game, the Port game. Just while we're talking about AFL and the decision to pay Jace Burgoyne for out on the full, and I think BT reckon the umpire made a good call, and I just wanted to, I think, clear it up in my mind. It seemed to come off Jace's leg or foot, and then it kind of rose up and came off the top of his head or hand and then head.
Yep.
And I just wanted to triple check. I mean, obviously it's going at the speed of light, and the umpire made the call that he made. But if we do see that it has come off a player's foot, but then hand and or head, that is not out on the full. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's
okay.
Any doubt, throw it in. So obviously in that case, you'd be communicating with the boundary umpire, if there is one. But if there's any doubt, we throw it in.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
If they'd taken that approach in the AFL, it would have been a throw. But, mistakes happen. Frank, you want to make a comment about the running too far?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head just regarding Isaac, and obviously at the pace that he goes, we can probably get caught into the trap of counting steps over actually looking at the meterage that they've probably covered across the ground. So he probably only covered 15 steps, but obviously at his speed and probably stride, it's 24 meters, which I was a bit shocked at as well. So just a bit of food for thought.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And if we started paying the running too far based on what Isaac ran, I don't think the player taking the same amount of steps at our level would be running in 24 meters. So I just wanted to re-emphasize the way I had talked about the rule in the past. It's a good chance to reflect on it. And if we happen to technically miss a running too far, it's not the end of the world. I just think if we start paying them when they actually haven't run 15, it starts to look pretty bad. And we don't have box footy doing the box footy tracker. So,
Hey,
at the end of the day, erring inside the ball player isn't a bad philosophy for this one.
Colin, I had one on the weekend. It wasn't running too far, but it was like a once in a blue moon thing that happens where the player hand passed it to himself and he ran onto it without the ball bouncing. Now, if he has hand passed it, well, he's deemed in possession for the entirety of the time that he's had the ball. If he runs onto it and catches it after he's hand passed it to himself, if that makes sense. So he can pick the ball up, run 7 meters, hand pass it over the top of his opponent, and he's run another 10 meters to collect the ball. He's run too far. So what I'm trying to say is the handball to yourself doesn't constitute a bounce.
No, it doesn't. And I was actually speaking to Ian Gore before. And did you hear the fact that you're doing the first Div 1 this week?
I did.
He gave me a glowing report, and he said you handled that blue moon situation really well. At the end of the day, you paid holding the ball based on the fact that you had a prior opportunity, which is spot on.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, technology issues at the start. So
all good, mate. No stress. As far as running too far, say they've run 5 meters and they handball a 10-meter handball and then catch it themselves is unlikely, isn't it? Again, I wouldn't ask us to be too technical on that one, but I guess at the end of the day, he hasn't bounced it, so it's from where he first started running. So I guess you give him a period of time to get rid of it, and if he keeps running and clearly has run more than 15, then you'd ping him, but you're not going to see that too often. Ali, did you have something you wanted to follow up? You just sent a message.
I did, and then I did a message in the chat. So thanks, Ian, for getting back to me. But Colin, did you say that they tracked him as running 24 meters?
Yeah, that was Fox Footy Tracker. Yeah,
that's amazing. Wow,
it didn't look like it. Didn't look like it at all.
So good to know. No, thank you.
And I would like them to have done a tracker on his showdown goal, because I reckon he's run about 30. And at the end of the day, it was a great goal, and no one was complaining. That's what I guess the bitter Crow supporter in me was saying after the weekend. If it wasn't paid, there wouldn't have been one person would have complained about it. But and I don't blame the umpire. I actually think, and at the end of the day, he got it right, so you can't blame him. But my suspicion is that it probably has been brought to their attention, perhaps the showdown goal, and they needed to keep an eye out for it. And it is what it is. They got it right. And I'm not saying don't pay them. I'm just saying in your mindset when you're out there looking at it, the moment you think they've run too far, just give them another step or two, and if they kick it, let it go. Matt?
I was going to say that should get paid more often at AFL level because they pay kicks less than 15 metres all the time, which is another bugbear. But they let blokes run 20 metres every day.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, you're all entitled to your opinion on that one, and I think there will be a crackdown. But at the end of the day, like the it is subjective at times, and it's really hard to be like exact on it. And all I'm saying, at our level, if we start having a crackdown on it, I can absolutely guarantee you in 120 games of footy, we're going to have umpires that start paying when they run 12, 13 or 14. And does footy want that? I 100% think no.
Colin?
Yeah.
I've always used the cricket pitch rule. Cricket pitch is, 20 metres. And by the time they get to the end of the cricket pitch, that would be, or cricket pitch distance, that's too far.
Yeah. It just has to be, for us at our level. Again, I'm not here to bag AFL umpires, but at our level, it just has to be one of those decisions we're paying when everyone's looking for it to be paid. It's a real obvious and blatant one. Let's not get too technical and start paying them, and we get people say, where the hell did that come from? It may mean we have a slight difference with what's happening at AFL level, so be it. All right, good discussion point. All right. I got my grumpy pants on the weekend, and apologies. The umpire has got an apology from me with the way I responded to him over the phone. But I did warn you all at the beginning of the year, if you have a red card and the player continues after being offended against and they don't go off to get treatment, it has to be low impact. And when I get umpires put in as medium or high impact, when that goes, I get really grumpy. So I'm going to resend out the email I sent out last year at the beginning of this year, so you have it handy, not just about that, but also about what you need to put in the system for a red card. We need lots of information. Just some reminders on that. And I need to be notified too. So I found out about a couple of red cards yesterday and today, which made me grumpy. I need to be contacted on Saturday after the game, just so I'm across it all. If you've got any doubts at all about anything you need to input, please ring me before you put anything in. I may be out umpiring, so if you can't get hold of me, if it's something really urgent, you can speak to Pete Angel, but normally it's something where I can call you back later. And if it means you input the stuff into the system, as in the red cards later on, that's fine. But yeah, just don't jump in and start putting things into the system if you're not sure about it and we stuff it up, because then it just makes more work. And yeah, it's an issue for me in the office on Monday. All right. We had an issue recently. It's a confidential issue. I'm not going to go into the details. I don't want anyone gossiping and trying to work out who it was and all that type of carry on. But we had an unintentional act from one of our umpires that upset a couple of the younger umpires in our group, and it's a really good reminder for us all. We do have a lot of young people in our group, and it's important we're mindful of our interactions, both in what we say, but in this specific instance, we're talking about use of physical contact. So hugs, a comforting tap on the shoulder, other similar gestures, usually meant to be in a friendly, caring way, and that's what the case that we dealt with was. What we need to be aware of is that some people don't always feel comfortable with physical contact from people they are not close to. For some, it may bring feelings of distress from a previous traumatic experience, and we just can't assume it's okay to step into someone else's personal space. So the AFL do have a policy about protection of young people. You've all done the video on Officials HQ, and it covers a bit of all that. And the main message relating to this is that any physical contact at umpire training or on game day needs to be relevant to the training activity, and even then permission needs to be asked first if there is a need to have physical contact with a umpire. And I guess the only exception is if there's a serious first aid incident. So it was pretty heavy, but we've had to take some action on one umpire for a unintentional action which has caused some distress. and we just don't want anyone else going into that area again. Yeah, I'll kind of talk a little bit about on Wednesday night at training as well, just to reinforce those, I get those messages. You only have to see what teachers do these days with their students, and we're in a similar boat. You know, we just cannot put ourselves in positions which make other people uncomfortable, especially young people. All right, and last thing I want to mention, for those that like to go study appointments, I know some of you do, then you will notice most weeks there's going to be a 3-umpire system or 2 for Div 1 games. Now, what's been happening quite a bit this year, we've got a Div 1 or Div 2 umpire that pulls out after appointments have come out. Now, instead, in the past, that's caused absolute havoc with the appointments. It means a total rearrangement of appointments. So to make life easier, and I do like to keep you in the game that you're originally appointed to, unless I really have to make a change. I've been shifting an umpire out from one of the 3-umpire system games to cover a gap when this occurs. So yes, we have a policy which says to be appointed to a 2-umpire system game in Div 1, you need to have run 12:30 for a time trial. Some of you will notice that there have been umpires this year umpiring Div 1 2-umpire system that didn't reach that time trial benchmark, and that's only because they were originally appointed to a 3-umpire system game and we had a pull out. So I know I had someone ring up and query that last week, and just want you all to be aware that's what's happening. The policy still exists. I'll still stick to that, but I also have some flexibility in case of pull out. So anything else before we get onto the coaching video? Anything about what I said? Anything what happened on the weekend? This won't be in the coaching notes, but I see the umpire online. I'm not going to point them out, but I'll just make it point to everyone. If there is a change in the team sheet, the only thing they're required to do is actually make a change on the physical team sheet that we have in the room before the game. There's no need to insist that they go and make changes in Officials HQ. Please don't make a scene on that. And if that player ends up in the best players or is reported and you can't access their name in Officials HQ, just get in touch. We'll work through that issue, the case. But yeah, we can't expect clubs on the day with these late changes to have to jump into the system and make changes. I might follow up with the person that was involved with that on the weekend, but I just got a bit of feedback from Clubland about that, and I agree with the club. We don't need to be insisting on that. All right. Let's get on to the coaching video. So, yeah, with me. I hope you've all had a chance to have a look. All right. Hilly, you there? Mark Hill?
Yes, I am.
All right, mate. I know we changed. We did exchange some text messages beforehand about this. You can be the one that answers it, and we'll have a bit of discussion afterwards as well. So, on decision number 1, what's your decision? All right. What's the decision?
Yeah, I was particularly interested to see this one because it happened to us. Well, I was umpiring with Dennis at Payneham a few years ago prior to the last possession rule, and it happened exactly the same. And he paid deliberate out of bounds like this one. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit tricky because had the ball gone through the points, it would have been a point because Adelaide Footy League don't pay it as a deliberate. And you would think that that's what he was intending to do rather than hit the post, which let's say he's done that accidentally. Has he deliberately put it out of bounds? Probably not, but at the same time he has. So I personally would pay deliberate out of bounds because it's hit the post and gone out of bounds. But if you actually read the rule, it says it has to cross over the boundary line, which hasn't done either. So it's a bit tricky, but obviously that's all changed now with the last possession rule. So
yeah. So easy these days. Last possession means it's a free kick, full stop. So we don't need to really get too worried about the other part of it. But just for your interest's sake, before we brought in last possession, and this footage was taken in the year before we brought in last possession for A grade. So Tony did pay deliberate in that instance. Both at SANFL and AFL level, that was deliberate out of bounds 100% of the time. So even though you're intending to handball it through for a point, if you hit the post, it was given as deliberate. However, I did have discussions with Tony afterwards about it. The way I was interpreting deliberate out of bounds at the time is just the real obvious ones, and anything where you make ground, we were letting go. So at the time that year, I would have preferred it just to have been a throw in. But that was just how the league interpreted deliberate out of bounds at the time, and it's a good indication of how effective last possession is in clearing all that up. So just make sure if it happens these days that we do pay a free kick for last possession by hitting the post, that does mean it's a free kick.
Simple now.
Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Brendan Smales, have you had a chance to have a look at the video?
Yes,
Right.
I have.
Yeah,
Yep.
you have? Beautiful.
Yep.
All right.
This will be the marking contest, I think.
It is. Let's go through it and see what you think.
So in fast motion, it's a little bit hard to see. So I did actually go back sort of frame by frame, and the big fella that comes in only just uses his chest, I believe, to hold the ground. So I would have agreed with this and paid the mark.
Yep, spot on. So I had a discussion with one of the coaches last week. Might have been the Parry Hills coach. Just wanted to run through marking contact free kicks, and I said, look, holding the ball is always going to be number one most difficult to umpire, but marking interference is a clear second in my opinion, because at the end of the day, the difference between holding your ground and two actions where you push the player out and then go for the ball, they can be very much a fine line. I agree with your assessment here, that he just holds his ground. There's no action that actually pushes the player forward, and the player and his big body just tends to mean that the other player goes forward. So as long as the key here is reading what their intention is. So if their intention is to put the other player out of the contest first and then go for the ball, it's a free kick. If their intention is to go for the ball the whole time, then it's playing in a mark in this case. Just a small minor technicality, and I really wouldn't care less if you didn't pick up on this, but does anyone else knows anything about the start of that clip?
He bounced the ball in the goal square.
Correct, which you're not meant to do.
Yeah.
So technically, you would call
Reset.
it back and reset it. He's meant to leave the square first before he bounces it.
Hey, Colin, I actually was reading the rule book, and it doesn't say anything about bouncing the ball in the goal square. It just says it has to be kicked or hand passed. So really, it's probably irrelevant, isn't it? Whether he's bounced or not.
It's, well, at the end of the day, I
don't think we would call play on until he crosses the line, unless we've hurried him up and then called play on.
Yeah.
The only time we'd reset it is if he's handballed it before we've called play on and he hasn't left his square.
You're talking about handballing it. That means he's, I guess bouncing is an indication that he's got the ball in play. So it always has been, in my mind, it doesn't really matter. It's not the end of the world, but it's my understanding that bouncing in the square is not permitted. You need to leave the square to recommence play before you do. Matt, have you unmute yourself? No? No.
Yeah, I was just agreeing with Alex saying that just because he's bounced it means nothing because he still had to leave the square anyway, so he still had to take a couple of steps or whatever it was to leave. And we don't call play on because he bounces it, so I think it's a non-issue these days because of the new square rule. So
And
No,
I
at the end of the day,
I would probably just reset. Sorry, I'd probably just reset the mark if the person on the mark assumed that it was play on. That's probably what I would do. Just on the kick out,
I guess the problem with him bouncing it in the square is it's indicating to other players that the ball's in play. So in my mind, you should only be bouncing it once you've left the square. If you don't pick up on it, I don't care really at the end of the day. But it's always been my understanding that if they do bounce in the square or if they handball in the square or do anything like that, then you reset it. And that's my preference, but again, it's not the end of the world. We're talking technicalities here.
Because that example was actually in, like, I was looking at the whole players need to vacate that 15-meter radius of the goal square. Like, I noticed on the weekend, particularly the defending team that's bringing the ball in are leaving players inside that zone, and seemingly like the attacking team don't go near them, but we should actually be calling that ball back as well if it's kicked to one of those players inside that zone.
Yeah, so what you need to be doing for communication-wise is seeing that they're not vacating the area and calling for them to move. And if they're just standing there and they don't vacate it, you can call it back if you like. But usually communication, saying you've got to get out of the area, means that they do. All right, let's keep it moving. We've got a few still to get through here. Chris Braun. Be another very happy Port Power supporter. I'm surprised you don't have the scarf or anything on. Were you at the ground?
Didn't deserve to win. No, I wasn't there.
We have a guy called Jack Staker who helps us out with the match review panel. He's a big Port supporter. He went to the game yesterday. Left with 2 minutes to go. Thought it was all over.
I've seen the replay at least half a dozen times, maybe 10, so that's fine.
Yeah. All right.
Goal of the year, I reckon.
Have you seen this video yet?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. So let us know what you think of this next one. All right, what's your thoughts?
I don't know. It's a bit hard to tell what happened. I mean, the umpire doesn't go anywhere near it. He's sort of blown the whistle and running away, and you can't kind of see what happened, whether there was contact with one of the other players. I didn't see it, Cole.
Okay, so if you go back and have a look at it, there's a clear bump well off the ball. So you can bump when you're within 5 meters of the ball. In this case, it's 20, 30 meters away. It's a really good free kick. I guess the reason I put it on there is where should the free kick be paid? And the answer to that is where the offence occurred or where the ball is at the time. So Chris actually pays a 25 here. And if you do that, no one's going to lose any sleep. It probably deserves it because it was pretty ordinary action. But technically the rule is it isn't pay a 25. The only reason you pay a 25 when a player is running free is if the player who has handballed or got the ball onto the player who takes possession of the ball is held onto and is for the sake of stopping him getting to the next contest. So that was the Alistair Clarkson rule. Alistair in 2008 grand final basically told his players to grab hold of the player to stop them running on, which either stopped them running on or a free kick was paid at the spot, which allowed them to get back and flood back. So either way, it didn't. It benefited the team that was doing that, which is Hawthorn at the time. And so for that particular instance, they paid a 50 metre from the spot where the ball was. But in this particular instance, an off the ball free kick, which is a different scenario. And so it's paid, again, where the ball is or where the incident occurred, whatever the greatest advantage. So,
Colin, I don't want to take up much time, but what's your thoughts on paying advantage there, given that the guy was streaming down the wing and just about to kick it probably 50 metres?
Yeah, don't have a problem with it unless you think it's worthy of a yellow or red card, where I would actually stop the play and get him off. I don't think that one is worthy of a card, but if you did think it was, that would be the reason I would stop. But absolutely happy for it to be an advantage. It's a good call.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's run through the rest of the video because we haven't got too much time left. So yeah, tackling, lots of holding the ball decisions here. So prior opportunity means, does the player have a chance to handle or kick? In this case here, the player puts his hands up, which is an indication that he has had a chance to handball. And then the tackle occurs and the ball spills free without a handball occurring. I think it's a good decision. You do often see players get the ball, they're tackled, and then they put their hands up in the air. In that case, you can consider that a prior opportunity. So good decision there from Rob. There's a nice little marking interference there, just for what we were talking about before. I didn't think you got a shove out there, so that was a good decision from Liam. So this one here is a little bit more obvious with the prior opportunity. Clearly run down. And so it doesn't get the handball or kick after an obvious prior opportunity, so rightfully penalised. In the same game. Not a lot of prior opportunity, but you can definitely say that he had a chance to handball there. Whether he had a chance to kick or not, doesn't matter. There's definitely a chance to handball, so that's a prior opportunity. Good set kick control to bring it back behind the mark. So let the play unfold, then react to the obvious. So we don't go looking for free kicks, but they'll be obvious when they occur. So in this case, just a good contest for the ball. And then tries to fend off. And is caught. Obviously doesn't handle or kick. Glory there pays the right holding the ball decision. From the same game here. So definitely had a chance to handle or kick. The player ends up landing on his side. So not in the back. Doesn't handle or kick, so good hold on the ball.
Sure, although admittedly the last few
this one here, the ball doesn't go 15 metres, called play on, tries to fend off. And again, rightfully penalised for holding the ball.
This instance, and on the back for Dylan Darley. He looks forward now. They've got to keep it to the near.
So is there a genuine attempt? Whether or not they've had a prior opportunity, they still need to make a genuine attempt. And if they just drop the ball, as I think this is what occurs here, just drops the ball. And so it's not a genuine attempt to handle or kick there. Interesting one at the end of the Crows game where Mark Keane, some thought that he just deliberately dropped it. I was actually quite happy with it being a play on that it's guilt free, but maybe that's my bias coming out. So with this one here, there is a genuine attempt. There's no prior opportunity there, so ball up is fine in that instance, which Marquetti does do. As long as they show us they're intending to try and handle or kick. So just let it unfold and react what happens.
Leave this 450 for Quinton, Mark.
So in this case here, it looks like there could potentially be a hole in the ball, but for delaying the whistle, the ball comes out. I'm actually not sure whether there could have been a hole in the ball because I reckon the tackler drove it, brought it back in, but good umpiring just to let it go. A reminder to protect the ball player. You want to move to see the head and shoulders. Perfect positioning here from Paul to see this one. So arm came over the shoulder, gets in quick to make sure that there's no remonstration. Really good umpiring. So So women's footy can be quite congested as it is here. Just really important to keep moving so you see those obvious high tackles like that one could pick up from Makeda. Women's footy can be difficult to umpire because of that congestion. So just react to the obvious. Don't go looking for free kicks. They'll stick out. With this one here, if you land in their back, then it's an obvious and blatant pushing it back. And pick up by Joel. Again, good positioning, 20-25 meters away, side on. This one here. It's a trip, I reckon. You'll see the leg being grabbed quite obviously if you have a look at the replay. But they're obvious ball player free kicks that we can't afford to miss. So make sure you keep moving. Does the player have possession of the ball? Obviously, keep an eye out for those holding on to decisions. Really good pick up here. You see the jumper come out, and Tony's right onto it. Plays the free kick to West Croydon. The terrible conditions overall was a mess that year. Now this one here, you don't get too much more obvious than this one. Ball spills free and just it's almost a dangerous tackle these days. But it's a decision where we just need to get. And so the last message, the key to consistent decision making is position, maintaining distance to the footy and the ball player's head and shoulders. So any questions or comments, any of that on anything else before we wind up?
Hey, Colin, it's Alison. I have a really quick one, and I should have mentioned it earlier, but I was out at Modbury doing a girls' game on the weekend. But after that, Athelston were lining up we're getting ready for the C grade, and the C grade footy director came up to me and asked a question, and it was and I'm noticing this increasingly with the girls' teams, they're finding themselves low on numbers at the moment. And so he said that he had a team where there were 14 or he had 15 or something. He had enough, but the other team only had the bare minimum. And so they played down, they matched the number. But he said if they then get injured and go down to 13, then my understanding is, or he said his understanding is that they only match up at the quarter time break. But then he said, what happens if the other team then says, oh, look, we've got too many injuries, we want to stop? And what happens if the Athelston then say, well, we don't want to stop? And
all right,
he asked him.
It's about to run out, Ali. So if it goes below 14, keep the game going. If teams want to keep going, make a note of it and put it in. Once it goes below 14, they don't need to even up. It only evens up once you get to 14. If it goes below 14, they play 14 versus 13. Technically, it should be a forfeit at that stage, but they're there to play. Just play it and then let us know about it through the week.
And it's up to the teams, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. If they want to stop the game and they both agree, you stop it. But just make sure you make any note about that and contact me if that occurs.